I uploaded a video a day for 6 years. There was no breaks, there was no off time. But when you have that goal that you want, like, it really doesn't matter how much you have to work to get it.
What made you think, I want to become a world record holder?
The Guinness World Records actually reached out to me, and it was a dream scenario because they were like, we've made one up. I wasn't in the right headspace to be trying to take exams, and, you know, realistically, I didn't want to see anybody. I think there's a lot of people that feel the same way when everyone's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, I hope, you know, and it's tough to hear all the time because you're just having a constant reminder of like, oh, something horrible is happening. It's a sad story, but I believe that you are you're shaped by the experiences that you have in life.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Getting Back Up with me, Anthony Ogogo. Today I step into the gaming world. I talk to a YouTube sensation, a Twitch legend, a guy called Callum. If you haven't heard of Callum, there's probably a good chance that you or your children or your nephews and nieces have heard of his gaming moniker, SeaPeeKay. Callum, aka SeaPeeKay, is a 3-time Guinness World Record holder. He has amassed an army of followers and subscribers, over 1.5 million. For some context, that's more than the population of Manchester, Liverpool, and Edinburgh combined. He talks to them daily on his Twitch channel. He's been sponsored by Sony, Xbox, Microsoft. He's had his lovely face adorned on the big LED screen outside Piccadilly Circus. Callum is truly world famous in his industry. Although Callum is very much living his childhood dream out now, being flown around the world to go to gaming conventions, have his name chanted by thousands of adoring fans, Callum has gone through so much adversity in his personal life. Callum's mum, also his best friend, passed away when Callum was just 17. His mum herself was pregnant with Callum when she was 15, had him at 16. They're really, really close. He watched his mum get very poorly and eventually pass away from breast cancer. He had to raise his sister, who was basically a baby when his mum died. He had to raise his sister pretty much on his own with the help of his grandparents. Callum opens up about all those struggles around losing your mum and your best friend. He talks about having to drop out of college, having to find his place in the world. Callum's a really, really positive guy, and you can hear that in his answers to all my questions today. He talks openly about the abuse that he and his peers get from internet trolls and bullies. I loved talking to Callum. I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. So listen to it, learn from it, be inspired by it, and without further ado, let's get stuck in. Callum Knight, aka SeaPeeKay. How are you, mate? How are you?
I am very good, thank you, Mia. How are you?
Mate, thank you so much for coming on today. I've done this podcast now for a little while, and I've interviewed some top people in the world, and mostly sport, but some other demographics as well. And I'll be very honest, I get nervous doing this for a couple of reasons. One, because I want to create something entertaining, but mainly inspiring for the listeners and the watchers. But secondly, because the people I have on, they've got inspiring stories, amazing stories. They've suffered setback and they've overcome the setback to achieve great things in their life. And most of the time it's sport, like I said, and I was a sporter, and so I get the whole sport world. I'm as nervous as interviewing you as I am anyone I've done, because, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, I don't really get it. I don't get the whole gaming, like, I don't get it. So I'm really, really ignorant to it. So anything I may say later on in this next hour or so, I apologise if it's the wrong thing. But I really want to learn. I think people listening to this and watching this as well, hopefully I'm not alone. Hopefully other people are as ignorant as me. And hopefully we can all learn together. So I'm really thrilled to hear you talk today. And I know you've got an amazing story. And a massive thank you, mate. Massive thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. And I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I mean, even I don't really get it. So You know, I've been doing it full time for 8 years, and I still really have no idea what's happening. So I'm sure we'll get through it together. I'm sure.
Yeah, just hold each other's hand.
That's it.
We can be triumphant together.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Ogogo Fitness. Ogogo Fitness is my brand new fitness app I'll be launching really soon. I've created this app so I truly want to help people. I believe everybody should have the right to exercise and be fit and be healthy. I brought this to the world to promote physical health and mental health. I've designed 60 preset 7-minute workouts ranging in difficulty from round 1, which is pretty easy, to round 12, which is really challenging. As well as that, I've got my personal workout builder. I've created 50 different exercises, and you have the choice to create your own playlist from the 50 different workouts, which gives you an option of over 80 million combinations of workouts. So from your Ogogo Fitness app, you can literally choose from millions and millions and millions of workouts personalized for you and what you're training for. So head over to ogogofitness.com, register your interest, and be the first to know when Ogogo Fitness is launching.
So for those that don't know who SeaPeeKay is, and Callum Knight, and I'll talk about you probably. I'm a wrestler now, and I've got my wrestler character and I've got a me character. People talk to me as a wrestler and as a person, so I'll do the same to you. And hopefully the reality is somewhere maybe in the middle. But for those that don't know who you are, who is Callum Knight? Who is SeaPeeKay? What is it that you do, and why are we talking today?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the cool thing for me, I mean, it's a similar vein to what you're saying, actually, is, you know, there is a character involved, and, you know, Callum Knight is me, the person that, you know, grew up and went to school and got a job and, you know, did normal life stuff. And I guess SeaPeeKay is this persona that I created online, where I was just like, I love video games. I love playing them. I played them since I was a kid. I mean, I'm 30 now, very young 30, relax. I played, the first thing I remember playing is my great granddad's Atari when I was like 2 or 3. And it literally just got me hooked on the concept of gaming as a pastime. So I then was trying to get whatever console I could get and, you know, slowly playing more and more games. And then around 10 years ago now, I must have been 20, I think, I decided to, why don't I start uploading some YouTube videos of me playing games? YouTube was really infantile at the time, and no one was really doing it, and it wasn't a job for sure back then. So I did it alongside going to college and having a job, and then I would come home and upload a video as well. And now 10 years on, it's been my full-time job for 8 years, and I just play games and add some silly commentary. I sort of describe myself, I guess, as like the lovable idiot. If you could imagine it as a character in a film, I'm like the lovable idiot who's like, he's there and he's trying his best, but like he's not really doing anything.
Everyone loves that character in the rom-com. Everyone loves him. It's like when you said that, my head went to Hitch. One of my favorite films, Hitch, Will Smith. Yeah. And Albert Brenneman, the other one, the chubby guy, the lovable idiot. Everyone loved him. And at the end, he got a leg of coal, and they were together. And it's like, what an amazing movie! So I said that. I get it. So
yeah,
mate, great intro to who you are. Great intro, and I as I thought, he was kind of modest. Now I've taken up on my liberty myself to introduce you myself, and this is what I've come up with. Okay.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
The Getting Back Up podcast is all about, celebrating people's achievements, because life is hard. Life can get difficult. Life does get difficult, and it's about getting back up off the floor once we've been knocked down. And so often, we aren't celebrated enough for our successes. And not just that, we aren't celebrated enough for our successes considering the depths that we sunk to before we got there. And as I keep saying, you've got an incredible story which we're going to touch upon later on in the podcast, hopefully. But this is for those that want to know who Callum Knight is from somebody who's not Callum Knight, therefore I can be more liberal with my praise. This is Callum Knight. He's an internet icon, a Minecraft maestro, transcending Twitch superstar, a YouTube sensation with your videos getting millions upon millions upon millions of views, has an audience, to get this, right? Has an audience, 1.5 million people. And to put it into perspective, that's more than the city of Liverpool, Manchester, and Edinburgh combined. I've done that research myself this morning.
I'm gonna have to get you to write one of these up for me, you know?
Oh, but there's more. Okay. Had sponsorship deals with some monster brands, including Sony, Microsoft, Xbox. Had you as the face of their Jump In campaign, where your handsome mug adorned the screens above Piccadilly Circus. A three-time world record breaker. Now let's just say that. Let's sink in. A 3-time world record breaker.
What do you mean? No, I didn't, guys. Stop. What do you mean? No, stop.
What are you talking about? That was so cool.
I just have them to hand. What do you mean? I didn't bring them on purpose. Stop.
A savant in the world of gaming and communicating with your fan base, one of the most precious jewels in the good vibes only talent roster. And by doing my research, I think it's fair to say that in spite of all that unbelievable success, and we're going to talk in a moment why that success is extra unbelievable. What's true as anything, after doing my research, you're a lovely young man with a very good head on your shoulders. You're adored by both the people that watch you for hours each week streaming and those that know you on a more personal level, which I truly think is arguably the greatest success one can achieve in their life. Not bad from a lad from Doncaster, eh?
No, I know. Honestly, that I'm getting close. I'm like welling up here. Bloody hell. That was quite the speech.
Mate, you're quite the guy. And I want to talk about why that's such an incredible achievement, all the things you've done. But more, before we do that, I want to learn about gaming, because, as I said, I don't really get it. I don't really understand it. And I want to do a little shout out now to Katie Traxton, who is the owner, the founder of Good Vibes Only Talent, who hooked us up today. And I said to her, she was telling me all about you. And she was saying, I've got a Callum, he's this gamer and this. And I was like, but I don't get it. But I don't understand what you mean he's a gamer. It's like, well, he got all these followers. And I was like, yeah, but I don't get it. And she said to me, and this worked for me, she said to me, think as this, Callum is like a TV presenter. And his channel on Switch is his own channel. And he's the presenter of his own channel. And he talks about what he wants. All these people watch him. Like we watch TV as kids. They can watch what they want to watch. And you can talk to them. And I said, oh, she's like a Blue Peter presenter. And she went, yeah, kind of. Then I thought, that's the coolest job in the world. Because when I was a kid, my first dream was become a Blue Peter presenter.
Yep.
So I fancy Katie Hill. But anyway, so is that kind of it? Is that what you do?
Yeah, I mean that's actually a great way to put it. Actually, I mean, I did a big slog on YouTube for most of my career. I always thought like YouTube would be the platform that I enjoyed the most. But I uploaded a video a day for 6 years. So you know, I mean, there was no breaks, there was no off time, but like, it doesn't matter. And I'm sure you've experienced this, you know, being in sport, like when you have that goal that you want, like it really doesn't matter how much you have to work to get it. Like, you know where you want to end up. And if that means doing 7 days a week, sometimes you're going to do 7 days a week. Like, you know, I'm very self-motivated. So I spent all that time doing that. And then I sort of like fell in love with the idea of live content. Because I think, and this is a sweeping statement, you can be a really funny and great YouTuber, even if you're not necessarily funny in the moment, because you have like the edit opportunities and you can do retakes of the jokes. And whereas like now with Twitch, like it's cutthroat. Like if I say something stupid, like I've said it, I'm live. Like it's the same as announcing the wrong winner at a talent show when you're on live television. You know, it can happen. You'd hope it doesn't, but it can.
So that was an oddly specific thing an example. Has that happened to you before, the wrong winner at a talent show?
No, you know what? Luckily, despite presenting daily, we haven't really done any award shows yet. So, but you know, my phone number is available. My email inbox is open. If anyone's looking to get me in. But you know, and it's one of those things now where like I play games in the background, but I like to think, and I'm putting words in the viewers' mouths here, that they come to watch like my input and what I'm saying and what I'm doing, whether that be knowledge on the topic or whether that be something completely random. I've done, a 3-hour stream where I'm just telling a story from when I was a teenager, and then people are so interested in the story. What's going on in the background, almost doesn't matter. I mean, I've chosen gaming as the subject matter, but I really could be waffling about absolutely anything with absolutely anything behind it, really.
Well, you mentioned a moment ago about you uploaded the video every day for 6 years because you said when you have a goal, you want to get the goal. When you were doing that, what was the goal? What were you striving for?
So it was interesting because I think, and again, I think it's pretty relatable in that goals shift a lot. And in that originally when I started making YouTube content, I was never expecting it to be a job. I mean, at the time, it couldn't even really be one. No one was really making any money from YouTube. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm going to make YouTube videos and that's it. That's what I'm going to do. But I was pretty convinced I was going to end up like a music teacher or something. I enjoyed music and I was like, okay, cool. I guess I'll just become a music teacher. I don't know. And so my first goal, when I realized there was an opportunity where like, oh, maybe this could actually be something, my goal started off small, like, oh, let's try and get 1,000 subscribers. And then once I hit that, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what if I can get 10,000? And then I'd get to 10,000. And it took me 3 years to get to 36,000 subscribers. And then one video series that I had a series with a bunch of my friends that I'd made all through YouTube and content creation. One series like exploded overnight. And that month I gained another 36,000 subscribers. So everything I'd done in the last 3 years, I clipsed it in a month. And I was like, okay, cool. I mean, that seems fair. Brilliant. I'm very happy, of course, but I'm like, great. That's a nice little bonus. And then my goal was like, well, now I want 100,000 subscribers, obviously, because YouTube actually give you a cool little plaque, a little silver plaque. With your name.
I was hoping you'd go, which is him. That's what I'm going to pull out.
The thing is, I do have it somewhere, but I mean, since I moved to London, I actually, funny you mentioned it, I lived in Liverpool before I moved to London. And so obviously we downsized the square foot and quadrupled our rent to move here. So, we're short on space, so everything's just slammed in a cupboard at the minute. So luckily the world records were to hand for no reason at all. Not that I occasionally brag about them or anything. So my goal was, let's try and get 100,000 subscribers. And then at this point as well, I was like, well, hold on, I'm earning as much money from this as I am from my normal job as well. I was selling phone contracts to people. And I was like, well, which one do I enjoy more? Because I don't need the double income at this point. If I could earn enough to pay rent and have a bit on the side, I was quite content. So I just fully packed my job in. Was like, yeah, YouTube full time, let's go. Which was frightening because that wasn't ever a goal. And then all of a sudden it was what I was doing. So the speed at which I sort of blew up on the platform started eclipsing goals to the point where I stopped sort of having them. And my goal each month was like, cool, let's just make fun videos. And now it's my job.
As they say, it takes 10 years or 20 years or 30 years to become an overnight success. People don't see all the hard work you did. I trained for 11 years. The Olympic Games were 2.5 weeks of my life, and I'd been a boxer for 11 years prior to that. Traveled to every weird country in Eastern Europe, taken so many punches to the head, broken so many bones, and people see the 2 weeks of the Olympic Games and they don't see the slog beforehand. So, mate, all the power to you. So much respect to you for digging in when it gets hard. We spoke. Katie told me about how you were on the big poster at Piccadilly Circus. How random is that?
That was one of the most bizarre opportunities I've ever had, and I've been forever grateful and loyal to the kind people at Xbox who I'd done a lot of work with them, and they just emailed me one day. They were like, do you want to come shoot this campaign? I was like, yeah, cool. And they're like, all right, so here's the idea. And there's like, you're going to come do a photo shoot and a video shoot. And by the way, we're putting it on Piccadilly Circus. I was like, yeah, all right. And then the wildest part of it, I remember thinking this, because then they were like, and what's your day rate for shooting? I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, it's a paid opportunity. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, thank goodness you've said it, because I would have just shown up for free. You're going to slap me on. I think it's like the 3rd biggest digital billboard in the world or something. I'm like, yeah, just slap me up. That's good enough for me. I can technically say I think that's legally a modeling job. I think somewhere in there.
So I'll add that to the intro next time.
Slap that on the you didn't miss my illustrious modeling career of one job.
For those that don't know Piccadilly Circus, for you Americans listening to this, that's basically our Times Square. So, your face was on our equivalent to Times Square. Wow, what an opportunity. So go back to the beginning, mate. I mean, I mentioned earlier, you've got this unbelievable story, which it truly is heartwarming, and anybody who knows your story would not begrudge any amount of success that you achieve, I think, because what you had to go through as a kid, well, you barely had a childhood, in my opinion. Like, you had to grow up very, very fast. But I read somewhere online, you grew up in Donninghurst, a normal lad, a normal boy, did a job, made ends meet. And I thought, you can't believe what you read on the internet, because your upbringing wasn't that of a normal kid, was it? It was very, very difficult, lots of setbacks. So do you mind telling us about your upbringing and what made you you?
Yeah, no, of course. And it is actually really funny too, because I actually know exactly what you read, because I remember I actually wrote a paragraph for the website in question. And then they wrote it like I was like Oliver Twist. And I was like, what is this? It was like he went from job to job to make ends meet. I was like, oh, I wasn't Bear Grylls. Like that's
exactly what it says.
When I read it, I was like, job to make ends meet. I was like, what? I mean, yeah, I wasn't well off, but like the way they wrote it, I was like, what is this? But no, now on a more serious note, yeah, I mean, it's something I'm completely fine to talk about, and it is I guess like it's a sad story, but it is one of those things that I believe that you're shaped by the experiences that you have in life, and there's ups, there's downs. Some people have a worse run than others, and it is what it is. So my mom got pregnant with me super young. She was 15. So she was doing her GCSEs while she was pregnant, which is a wild thing to consider. And the gent in question, so my dad, when he found out she was pregnant, just peaced out. Like, he was gone. Like, wasn't even like, oh, let's wait and try, or it was like he found out and was just gone. Like, so my mom had me at 16, and I was raised by my mum, my auntie, my grandma, and my granddad. And first of all, stellar job. Again, I think that the reason exactly, 100%. I mean, I think the reason that I have come to be the way I am is fully because I was raised very well, and I was, taught to be polite, and there was some mixed messages in there of, it was like, definitely ask for things or else you won't get them. And it was like, asking for things is rude. Be careful. I'm like, all right, look, listen, relax. So we settled on we settled on closed mouths and never fed. That's what I've settled on in my life now. So I will chirp up all the time. I'll ask for everything. Worst you can get is a no. So, and yeah, I mean, it was, I think it was a relatively typical single family upbringing. I was raised in council house environment, and we moved around a lot. And that was partially down to my mum being so like sort of sporadic. I mean, I remember one day I woke up, I lived in England. She went, come on, got in a car, lived in Wales by the nighttime. Like, just absolutely just was a free spirit. I was in no way raised in a way where we had a bunch of money, but like, it was always like that really was like a make ends meet situation, like we always had a bit of food on the table. There was no real, no spoiling really, no treats. Like, it was definitely like a case of like the things that I got. So when I was getting into games consoles and stuff, it was like my granddad would spoil me and he'd, get me something. And, I'll still never forget the day. And maybe this is why I ended up so polite. My granddad bought me Pokemon Stadium for the Nintendo 64, right? And I was like, oh, we went into Woolworths to get it. So we're talking years back now, right? So I was like, oh my goodness. So I went home, I was playing Pokemon Stadium. I slipped up and I said something. And I remember I said to my mum, oh, the next time Granddad gets me a game, I hope it's this one. And she was like, how dare you? How dare you be so expectant that he would buy you another game? And I was like, oh. And I really feel like I think I was about 8 at that point, and it completely changed my outlook on how instantly I was like, oh, you're right, actually. That's really rude. I actually shouldn't have thought like that. That's disrespectful. So, I like to think that they drilled good morals into me, and I think that's very important. And then as I got older, there was, opportunities. I was sort of 13, 14, 15. I was going to school and, teetering around sort of, I was a little bit above a C grade student, and, I was never struggling at school, but, I was never excelling really either. Apart from in like music, I loved music. So I was always doing stuff like that. And there was these opportunities where, my family knew who my dad was. But I made the decision really young that I'm being raised fine, actually. Like, I'm having a great experience, or as good as it could be. I don't see how knowing who it is going to have a positive impact on my life, like at all. And to clarify, to this day, like I still have no idea, not a clue.
Oh, wow.
Family members still know, and I'm firm on I'm good. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand there's probably a level of, I'm sure he was terrified too. Yeah, I'm sure he was, young, and that's a scary situation to be in. But it all came down to, I was literally raised well enough in the situation that I was raised in, where I made that choice that I have no real interest in discovering, honestly.
On that one, sorry to interrupt. I mean, this is beautiful stuff, and thank you for being so candid with your life. Wow. I mean, I read you did a video, one of your earlier videos. It was 10 years ago when you were 20. One of the first ones you put out. You said you didn't know your dad, and never really thought about it. He's never in your life. So you said your exact words weren't that bothered about it. And I get that, because I'm similar. I mean, I knew who my dad was, but he wasn't in my life at all. And it's one of those ones where it's like, you can't really miss what you never had, can you? Like,
100%.
There's no Victorian kids back in the 1900s going, oh, I want to watch Netflix. There were no TVs. You can't miss what you never had. But I got to a point, and I never missed it. And I had that for the first 30 years of my life. I'm a little bit older. I'm 34. First 29 years of my life, my dad never thought about what I missed out on. And then I got to a stage in my life where like personal things are happening to me. And I was kind of struggling a little bit. And I wish that like I had somebody in my life that could maybe direct me or shape me or give me some advice. This video 10 years ago, in these last 10 years, when your life has changed massively, has your perspective changed at all? Where you wish maybe somewhere along the lines you'd had somebody to hold your hand or guide you this way or steer you this way, or give you some advice that like only a dad can give a child?
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be that like level in the back of my head. Like there's always going to be that curiosity of like, who is it? Like, could they have given me guidance in tough times? Like, there's no way you can ever imagine going on without having that level of curiosity there. Like there has to be. But I think for me is that the sort of father figure I ended up with was my granddad sort of stepped in, and he was the one taking me to play football all the time. And, he was the one who'd come and watch my football games. And so whilst there wasn't like this father figure, like I still had a male figure in my life who was, and, don't get me wrong, there was none of the, like, he taught me to shave and, all that stuff. But like, I still had that level of a male figure there. And any questions I had, like, my family are very candid and very honest. And I can go to any member of my family at this point. Like, I could text my grandma and be like, look at this outfit. What do you think? And she'd be like, absolutely awful. Take it off. Like, they're all very honest. So like any time I ever needed like guidance or anything, like I knew I had like a strong family bond there that could answer those questions if I needed them. And barring that, I'm a bit of a curious soul. So I just sort of would like learn on my own. I became pretty self-sufficient. And I think that's down to, and again, I know bits and bobs of my story, but when I was, and again, I'm going to mess up ages here because, it was like 15 years ago at this point, but I was maybe I think, 15, 16. And my mum actually got diagnosed with breast cancer, which obviously incredibly tough. I mean, I was young.
Being told by your mum at 15, 16 years old that your mum has breast cancer is one of the biggest lockdowns that one can face, I imagine. So what was going through your head in that time? Fear?
Yeah, I mean, I guess understandably, it was, life-altering news. I mean, in my head, I'm only young. I've just been told this. And straight away in my head, I'm like, well, already I don't know my dad. I don't have my dad. And, straight away, no matter what the situation is, like you hear cancer and you instantly assume the worst. Like I'm sure everyone does that. You hear that and you're like, oh, that's not good. I mean, so, and when I was told that, I was like, I think I remember I was like, right. And I took I think probably a couple of minutes, maybe a few minutes of just sort of standing there like, don't really know how to process the information, in all honesty. And it sort of hits and we did the whole, got very upset and we all did the, a group cry and got together and spoke about everything. It was like, okay, but, we've said you've got it, but, we're not, again, this is a knockback. She was experiencing the same sort of knockback that I was experiencing where like, yeah, you've been knocked down, but like, it's not done just because you get a diagnosis for something, right? So straight away we were like, I guess we're a motivated family. We were like, well, what can we do? How come, can we beat it? What's going on? So, I was told that. And then I really just tried to get on with normal life, which is tough when you've been, dealt a blow like that. But I think I remember the whole time thinking that, me and my mom were so close that like, I knew if I got really upset and stressed about it, then she's going to get upset and stressed that I'm upset and stressed. So, just a couple of empaths in a room just sobbing to each other it's not going to help the situation. So she went, hell for leather with this, with chemo and with all sorts of stuff. And I guess this is, a little bit more messed up, I suppose, in that about a year later, she actually got the all clear. And then within, I think 3 or 4 months of the all clear, she went back for a checkup and somehow it was terminal, had spread all over the place. And it went from being, oh my God, we've beaten it, we've done it, to very quickly being like, no, we haven't. And now like, we can't. Like it stopped being a case of like, can you beat it? And was more a case of prolonging life, I suppose. I think I was 17 when I was told that, and I'd sort of gone back to college. I was at college. I dropped out when my mum got the news or when she was getting sick because I just wanted to focus on, being at home and being around. Then when we got the all clear, I actually went back to college, and then obviously we got the terminal prognosis, so I dropped out again because I wasn't in the right headspace to be trying to take exams. And realistically, I didn't want to see anybody. I wasn't a super social kid at this point. And the last thing not in like a negative way, but I think there's a lot of people that feel the same way when everyone's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, I hope, and it's tough to hear all the time because you're just having a constant reminder of like, oh, something horrible is happening. And yeah, from there, I think it was actually, if I remember rightly, I think they gave her a sort of 4-year timeline of like, he's 17, you're going to see him up to his 20, 21. And I think I remember that was my mum's thing. She was like, I'm still going to get to see you become a little adult. I'll see you turn 18 and stuff. And sadly, it was less than 6 months, I think. And 3 months of it was spent in, where they're basically hospital bound the entire time. It was, I think it was like hospice care is what it's called. I could be getting it wrong. And so, it was a lot of visiting and the hospice were fantastic and they, really looked after her and, there's only so much that they can do. And I remember I would go and visit her and, it was just getting more and more upsetting every time I visited her. It was, seeing someone change, not even just, at first it was like physical changes and I'd be very aware that, she was changing because of what was going on. But, eventually it starts to affect them like mentally as well. And, it got to a point where like I really couldn't like I couldn't even fathom going to visit, which sounds horrible to people listening. But I think when there's a point where you're like, you want to preserve the current memory that you have of a person. And that's very hard to do if you keep going and seeing them deteriorating in a faster fashion, to the point where I actually didn't go like with my family when she was being like dressed for burial and stuff, because I was like, I don't think I could have recovered from that. You know, for me, I don't think I could have like gone and seen that and bounced back. And I actually still remember I was sat upstairs. Again, big gamer. I was sat playing the Xbox at the time, and my grandma came upstairs and like just sat with me and was like, she was like, yeah, I just wanted to come and let you know, like, we just got a call, like, you know, like she's gone. And I was like, okay, like, thanks for telling me. And like, she went downstairs and I sort of sat, I think, numb for 20, 30 minutes trying to work out what to do. You know, it's a horrendous situation to be in. I mean, again, I was 17, sort of turning 18 at this point. So I'd sort of been, I mean, you're never promised a timeline with things like this, but you know, like when I heard like 3 years, 4 years, I was like, oh, you know, I've still got time. I still got time to do some cool stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I think they get a lot of help and stuff through hospice stuff where they get to have like cool opportunities. So, you know, there was all these talks I was going to do this cool stuff, and, you know, things accelerated in such a way that it just wasn't possible. And I mean, it's stuff that, you know, there's probably some deep down somewhere, there's probably some unpacked trauma that now's probably not the time to get into, but it's the way I sort of tried to handle it. And it's the most ridiculous concept, honestly, is I remember I was playing a game on the Xbox, and I turned it off, you know, turned the Xbox off. I sort of sat there for a while. And I was so, you know, there's no way to describe the level of sadness that you experience at being given news like that. And I remember thinking to myself, like, well, what's the opposite of like, you know, being sad? How can I get to that as quick as possible? And I remember I just basically watched like nonstop stand-up comedy for like 5 days. And like, it's such a ridiculous concept, but in my head, I was like, well, if I'm like laughing and having fun, like it's completely taking my mind off of being so like unbelievably sad about the situation.
Who did you watch?
Michael McIntyre. Yep. That was the go-to. I mean, at the time too, I know, you know, we're talking 10, 11 years ago, maybe. So like, I'd say it was probably at peak. Everyone was sort of finding out about Michael McIntyre. So I remember thinking it was like the funniest thing. I was like, I'm just going to put it on. I'm going to put on any comedy special he's ever done, any comedy show he's ever done. And I would just sit and watch them like back to back and try and, you know, find some enjoyment. And then, you know, I did all the stuff that sadly you have to do after those things. And I went to, you know, the funeral, and, you know, I was born in Doncaster, but I grew up in a really small town called Goole, which is actually just outside. It's maybe 15 miles outside of Doncaster. Real small town vibe, 18,000 people. Everyone knows everyone. And like my family had been there for years. My grandma ran pubs in the town for years. So like my family like name was sort of like, oh, everyone sort of knew one of the Knights. Like someone knows someone there. So, you know, what I guess was so nice to see is that, you know, I knew my mum was a good person. Like, you know, I mean, everyone would say that about their own mum, I'm sure. But, you know, you see it in the way that the community responds to something like this. And, you know, the community came together and did a big charity auction, and loads of local businesses. And I think it was like Hull City sent some like football tickets out. And, you know, we basically did this big charity drive where we raised an absolute bunch of money. And then, you know, that it was basically like they gave me some of the money when I turned 18, and then some of it went towards like charity causes, and then some of it has been sat in an account for my sister, who actually is about to turn 18, which is super good God, like horrendous. That makes me feel so old. You know, then it's one of those things where like I understand, and I'm very aware that I have had an upbringing that some people couldn't get past and that some people couldn't bounce back from. And I think a lot of what helped me get through it is knowing like well, like now I always think about it and I'm like, what would my mum think of like what I'm doing? Or like, what can I do that would like make her proud? And like, what's like her legacy gonna be lived through me? And first of all, she'd absolutely tell me I'm a mug for moving to London without a doubt. Because she's just northerner through and through. So without a doubt, she'd be like that. But I know that she'd be proud of like what I achieved, however I achieved it. And, you know, I think that's one of those driving forces is that like, well, now I really want to make something of myself now. I don't know what field it was going to be in at this point. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something out of the ordinary. And it was like, how can I now achieve that? And how can I live like my life as if I'm almost living it for two people now? Where like I want my legacy to be a representative of like the hard work she did in the short time she had in raising me and the kind of person that I can become and like what I can do. So I think that's what, you know, pushes me to get through tough times. And as sad as it is, I mean, when you're dealt such like massive blows in your life as you're growing up, like it sort of softens the blows as you're getting older. You know, there's really not much news you can tell me now that's ever going to hit me in the same way that did. So for me now, like I get bad news and I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, let's just, you know, what can we do to get on with it? Is it as bad as it could be? No, there's always like, you know, there's always a positive that you can take from something, no matter how bad it is. And I think the positive that I can take from something like this is that I know I've become like a good young man. And, you know, I've done good things and I've tried to help others when I can. And it's, you know, a lot of it is knowing that it's because this is the kind of person that she would want me to be as much as it is. This is the kind of person I also want to be. So I guess it's a good thing that our views aligned in the ways that they did.
Mate, firstly, thank you again for being so honest. That was, I got tingles, goosebumps numerous times when you were saying that story. Oh man, I should be so proud of you. Should be so proud of you and the person you become. So and what a legacy. So how old was she when she passed away? Sorry, was she early 30s?
Yes, I'm probably going to start throwing wrong numbers around, but 34, 35. I mean, I think I was about to turn 18. Well, you know, I was about to turn 18 and there was 16 years difference. So yeah, 33, 34, tops.
Far too young, but what legacy she left behind in yourself and also your sister as well now. A couple of parallels when you were saying that, mate. Just to, not that anyone needs to, not that I don't need to, but to elevate that story more so. What happened to your mum, the exact same thing happened to my best mate. In 2020, he had cancer. He fought like an absolute trooper, done all the chemo, had all the treatment, and he was clear of it. He went back 2 weeks after getting all clear. That was during COVID times. We had a big WhatsApp. We had a drink together on a Friday night. Me and all the boys, a big 10-man FaceTime drink, celebrate Chapo. And then he went back for 2 weeks later. And then the cancer had come back with a vengeance. And he was dead 3 months later. And it was so cruel. And having that hope that they're going to be okay, and having it ripped away from you, it's just, the injustice is unbelievable. So to have that's one of my best friends. But to be your own mum, with that being said, your little sister,
yeah.
How was she? Like, how was she affected by it? Does she remember her mum at all? And also want to say, your grandparents, absolute legends, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Absolute legends, man.
100%. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be one of those things now where like, absolutely, like my sister's going to listen to this too and just say everything I said is wrong, like without a doubt. But you know, like, and again, I'm not here to discredit her feelings or her emotions either. And I would hope it never comes across like that. But my sister, I think, was 2 or maybe 1 or 2. And so, you know, she has memories for sure. And I think something, you know, as traumatic as this happening at such a young age probably leaves a bunch of, you know, relatively horrific core memories. I mean, these are the memories that she has of her mum, and most of it is us visiting in hospitals. And, you know, it's not necessarily the memories that you would want to be the only ones you have. And I don't doubt that it probably affected her in her younger years. And I mean, it's hard to say how much it affects her in now, I mean, maybe she's keeping stuff quiet. Maybe the decisions she makes are based on the stuff that happened. Like, it's hard for me to know. I mean,
do you feel a responsibility because you had your mum for 17 years, which is too short? I know, but you had her for 17 years. Do you feel some sense of responsibility to share your memories with your sister? And if you have done and do so, do that. Is there any resentment for her, not towards you at all, but towards life, because she never got those memories, those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's a really great question. And I mean, as to not put words in her mouth, I mean, I wouldn't even really know the answer. I mean, I'll be honest, like as much as, I think it's definitely something that it brings something like that brings a family very close. But it's definitely not something we discuss a lot. We always have little chats around things like birthday times, like my mom's birthday. Also, I guess makes it more hard hitting. My mom's birthday was Boxing Day. So that was when she told me. It was not only, the day after Christmas, but it was also her birthday. And then so it's tough to say. And, we don't really discuss it too much. And I know that she still lives with my grandma at the moment. And I know they have like open conversations about stuff, and I know they discuss stuff. And we've actually still got, hanging up in the living room was like a little, like chalk note that she wrote on a chalkboard, that we got like preserved as much as you can with, chalk. But it's like covered in like a spray that keeps it there, and it's just hung in the living room. And we had some videos and stuff. Like we documented some stuff when we were going to visit. So like my sister has those, very visual memories of her playing in the snow at like the hospice stuff, with my mum, and we've got all these memories of it. But in all honesty, like it's not something we chat about too much realistically, and whether that's like on purpose or whether we're both just sort of not keen to be the first one to do it is hard to say. But we have our little bits, especially around the anniversary of her death and her birthday and stuff, and we always have little bits. And we used to always, when I lived closer, we would get together every time it was something to do with it, and do something in memory. And, for me, as we got older, it was, with me and my grandma, I'd have a drink and, in memory and stuff. And so there's definitely still bits and bobs we do. And, we discuss it, but we don't have much in terms of like open conversation about it. But I mean, if I had to imagine, there has to be some level of, resentment to the situation where it's not fair. And I think I went through every single it's not fair situation when I was told the news the first time, when I was told the worst news the second time. You go through every single, well, there's so many bad people out there. Why is the good person being punished? And blah, blah, blah. And you can't really sit and do that to yourself. You'd just be sat in a never-ending cycle of someone else could have had something, but then, that's someone else is someone to someone else. And who are you to wish that on a person? It's tough. But if I had to guess, there has to be some level of it, even if it's deep down somewhere, it's maybe somewhere repressed inside, but there has to be a level of it because I'm resentful of it and I got that time. So, she didn't get anywhere near as much of that time. So I would absolutely be resentful.
Mate, thank you. So moving on, listen, let's talk about some fun stuff. This is about getting back up after getting knocked down, a massive knockdown. You got back up, you've achieved unbelievable things. I understand that if it wasn't going to be the games, music was like one of your first loves in your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, to be fair, I think it's quite a funny story because it was around the time that I was moving schools when obviously I moved around and I lived in England, I lived in Scotland, I lived in Wales. I was just sort of, bouncing about the place. And I actually moved back to England in year 9. So it was like time to pick my GCSEs for year 10. And I was like, I haven't got a clue. what I want to do. So basically what I did was I just picked the subjects that had teachers that I thought were cool. So That's how to make your life choices, folks. Just absolute luck of the draw. So I had to pick, there had to be a language in there. I had to pick a language. So I picked German over French. Can't speak a lick of it. And then it was, you get 3 options of things you want to do that are your choices. I was like, God, I've got to pick. I was like, liked my history teacher. I was like, yeah, crack on. I'll do history, I suppose. And then honestly, what's weird is most of my memories now are of like history, German, but then German was a choice, but it wasn't a choice because you had to study a language. So I definitely had another subject that I picked that I just absolutely don't remember, which is bizarre. Probably wouldn't surprise me if it was something like that, to be fair. But then for some reason, I remember just being like, yeah, music. Seems like a laugh, I guess. Do music. And so I had 0 experience at this point, 0 musical talent. I went into year 10, day 1, music, first day, sat down. Is that right? Teacher was like, right, going to go around the class. We're going to talk about like what you do. What's your musical, background? What's your talent? What do you do? Went around. It was like, you, singer. You, I play bass. You, I play drums. Pointed at me and he's like, what do you do? I was like, that's a fantastic question, sir. Let me tell you, what I've got is a desire to learn. And don't really know. And he goes, going to be honest with you, half the course is performative. You're going to have to pick something. And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll learn guitar. Yeah, I'll just learn guitar. He's like, all right, brilliant. So got a guitar. I was like, well, I'm going to have to learn something now because I don't know why, but I guess weirdly I thought that music would just all be about the theory and you wouldn't play anything. And I really don't know why I thought that because that's the most ridiculous concept. That's like becoming a footballer and thinking that it's all just learning about muscles. Like, I don't really know what was going through my head, honestly. So then I picked up guitar and I was just, all right, well, I'm going to have to learn it now because I need to pass music. And I guess as like a young sort of 15, 16-year-old guy spending a lot of time inside, I was like, yeah, let's play guitar all day. So I would just sit for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, sort of self-teaching myself to play guitar. And this was also at the same time as I was juggling gaming. I was big into my gaming. So I was like, what do I want to do? Play games or play guitar? So I'd balance the two. But then Guitar Hero came out and solved all my problems because now I'm like, well, brilliant. Now I'm playing fake plastic guitar with 5 buttons instead of learning real guitar, which is absolutely not transferable. But I was like, but I feel great. I'm like shredding these incredible songs on 5 buttons. I'm like, now do it on the real guitar. Yeah, I can't do that. That's not how it works. So I just would play guitar an absolute bunch. And then I got some free music lessons through school. They were like, a guitar teacher's going to come in and teach you the basics. And I remember the first song I ever learned, the first full song was Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor by the Arctic Monkeys. And I just remember, like, there's that little, like, intro solo thing. I remember I played it, and I was like, I'm the sickest guy. Like, I am the sickest guy right now. Did you hear that? I was like, I've just, like, shredded a lick like no one has ever heard. Like, Arctic Monkeys, I'll play for them, mate. Like, get me up there. And from there, I like, fell in love with this idea that I can just sit and learn a song. And then, like someone else wrote it, but I can play it. Sick. Like, what a cool flex. I don't know. So from there, I just started like learning an absolute ton of songs and they just get like slowly more and more complex. I joined a band in Leeds and I would drive through like 3, Our Famous Dead. Yeah, there was the guys. And I think, about a year into that band, I was like, well, guys, I don't want to be dramatic, but we're absolutely going to be famous and this is going to be my job. So, and no bands ever think that. Obviously, no bands ever think we're the next band. It's going to be us. We did like 3-4 years of just relentless touring, and we've probably played 85% of the pubs in Britain. And don't get me wrong, we had a few stints at big venues, and we supported some big bands, and that kind of became a big part of it for me. It's like, I've gone from like idolizing these bands to like, I'm going to play on the stage, and then 2 hours later, they're going to play on the same stage. I'm like, mad. I was like, who cares if I don't make money? I get to live this cool rock star lifestyle. And like, I'm also just the furthest thing from rock star guy ever. Like I've barely drank when I was like 18, 19 anyway. I've done 0 drugs in my life. And that's still to this point. I didn't smoke. Like, I was the worst rock star model ever. But you better believe I would get on stage and like throw myself around like I was the only person that existed. So I had some years in that, and then sadly didn't go quite the way I hoped it would. And then joined another band when I was at York College at the time, and I had a friend's band and they needed a fill-in guitarist, and I could pick up songs quite quickly by this point. I could like learn a song really quick. So like, yeah, just send me the set list, I'll learn it. And I played 2 gigs as a fill-in guitarist, and then they asked me if I wanted the spot. I was in that band for about 7-8 months called You Cried Wolf, and we played we're like hometown heroes, really. Like, we could sell out an entire venue in York, and then we'd go to Manchester and 8 people would be there. So it was like hometown heroes is the polite name I give bands like that. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with being one either. It's a great experience. So, and even now I've sort of picked up music again a little bit in the last couple of years. I just got just bought a new guitar about a month ago. And I'm starting to get back into it a little bit because, I'm at a point now where I know what my career is. It's defined. I mean, you never know what's coming next. So that's the fun part about it, I guess. But I have a bit of free time where I can knock out a little jingle here and there, and I'll usually just play in the morning. I'll like plug into my PC and sit for about half an hour, just like jamming to myself in the headphones, and be like, well, you know what? That's 30 minutes well spent, and then get on with my day.
And we need that. We need that as people. We need our own time to focus and do what we enjoy doing. So, the first world record attempt, or what made you think, I want to become a world record holder? I want to break a world record. That's so cool, by the way. Mate, that's so cool. I'm going to break a world record.
The beautiful part of it is, I was actually very lucky in that, I think it was a few years ago now, they were actually planning to release the first ever Guinness Book of Gaming records. So for about 4 years, I think, it had its own separate book. So it wasn't in the Guinness World Records book. It was in the Guinness World Records Gaming book. And I guess what they did was just sort of perused the internet for a few content creators who are known for a specialist subject, mine being Minecraft at the time. And the Guinness World Records actually reached out to me, and it was a dream scenario because they were like, we've made one up. Like, it doesn't exist. We've made up this record. All you've got to do is come and literally do it, and it is yours. Like, that's it. So they made this big song and dance about it. It was like the Creator Break a Record Day. And there was me, a guy who was there to break, I think, a Rocket League record. One guy actually was there to break I don't know what year it was at this point, but one of the WWE games, like a wrestling record. And mine was to build a house really fast in Minecraft. But it was to build a house. And this is how you get a world record, by the way, for anyone listening who wants one. What you do is you just make it as bizarrely niche as you possibly can. So I actually think I have it here because I'll read the wording. Right. So it was the Guinness World Record Gamers The Showdown at the YouTube Space London. This was 2017. And it is the fastest time to build a house in Minecraft in survival mode. And the bit that's missing says, with a specific set of rules. That's the important bit. Because the specific set of rules basically meant, well, someone else might have already built a house really fast, but yours has different rules. So I went down there, and it turns out I had actually, they gave us a record in advance, and like we could practice what we were going to do on the day, so we could go and actually do it. Otherwise, it would just be tragic. And we show up, no one can do it. And we're like, well, we tried. So I practiced it, and it was like, I got into this like Minecraft world. I'm like digging down, I'm getting all this stuff. There was like, I counted this exact amount of blocks I would need to do exactly what they wanted me to do, right? I get there, and what they've done is basically, I've read it wrong. They basically put it on easy mode for me. So whilst I was, without getting too much into the Minecraft nitty gritty, because fair enough, it's going to go over most people's heads, I reckon. But to build a house, you need to get wood. You get wood from a tree. I was running around trying to find trees in these worlds, right? So I could get the wood, and I'm like, it's so far away, I'm going to do it. What they'd done was set the world up. So it was like a level of dirt, And then underneath that, it was like a level of wood. So I could just go down and pick it all up. And I was like, oh, this is great. So even with my own rules that I'd made up, I had to do it in under 5 minutes, I think it was. I'd done it in like 4 minutes 10 and was like, I'm going to breeze this. And then I get there and they're like, oh, here's the challenge. I'm like, oh my, it's like half as difficult. This is brilliant. So I actually don't know if I think this one's missing the time. Oh, it is. I ended up doing it in about 2.5 minutes or something. And I was like, oh, sick. And like to make things better. And I mean, also a little worse because I still talked to the guys who were there setting those records. And hilariously, I actually was the only one who did it. Everyone actually failed there once. So that was, but then as a nice way to round it out, we got to do a group one. And again, I don't know if this one must be here. 2 of them are in frames and 2 of them are not in frames. Hold on. Oh, no, hold on. The fastest time to build a house in Minecraft was 3 minutes 54, actually. It's on this one. For some reason, I framed the one that doesn't have the time, but the one that does, I haven't framed. I'm not really sure why I've done that. Now, wait until you hear how specific the Mario Kart one is. You're going to love this one. The most coins collected in a single round of coin runners with a team of 4 whilst playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So there's facets to that one. And we got 53 coins. And it was set by me, Ross, Sam, and Sean. And what's interesting, actually, is I still keep up with everyone there. We've actually become like quite good friends. And potentially going to cause some drama here, but I'm a bit of a football guy. And sadly, or successfully, depending, I was born and raised a Man United fan.
Okay.
And Sam, the nice gent who I have the Mario Kart record with, is now the Manchester United guy who goes and interviews everyone for all the games and everything. So there's a nice little crossover. That's what he's. I think at the time he was a TV presenter, and now he's moved into presenting for Man United. And I'm like, what a nice little story of worlds colliding. You know, just a few gamers hanging out.
That's awesome. On that one, on the Man United thing. So you're also assigned to an e-company called Misfits, correct?
Yes.
And for again, Mike, I'm so ignorant. Hence the question. I don't mean to cause any offense. So Misfits, they're a Miami-based gaming team, and are they a Man United, or are they a Barcelona? Are they a Real Madrid? Are they a local Sunday football club? Like how does it work? Like do you get bought? Do you get signed? Like how does it work? I'm fascinated. This is so odd to me.
Yeah. Well, this is great as well, because they'll love that I get a little chance to plug them. So that's brilliant. So, but yeah, no. So there's a bunch of esports organizations now who exist to own teams of players, and those players compete in esports. Esports are things like Call of Duty, Overwatch. FIFA has the FIFA World Cup now. There's loads of stuff. But what a lot of the teams are starting to do now is also take chances on bringing in content creators who don't compete professionally, but we make content with and for them. So essentially, it's a case of like, I'm signed to them legally, and then I'll go out there. I get to go usually like once a quarter. So I get flown out to Florida, and we'll spend 4, 5, 6 days shooting absolute banger videos. And then I fly home. And that's the content relationship in it. And, you know, it's sort of a case of I'm salaried. And for that, I have like certain things on my stream that represent Misfits, and anything I do now represents Misfits. So, you know, something in the back of your mind when you're making decisions I'm not just representing myself, I'm also representing, you know, a prestigious organization. And as far as it goes for where would they sit? Yeah, you know, they're like I'd say they're a Man United in terms of organization tiers. Like if there's like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, they're definitely like a tier 1. I would say they have a lot of they have like franchise teams. So like they own the Call of Duty team for the whole of Florida.
As a gamer slash streamer, what are the challenges as a boxer, as an athlete, the hardest part of the job is getting injured and being on the sidelines and watching your other competitors get better or your teammates to play. As a boxer more specifically, the hardest part of being a boxer is the making weight, losing weight. Sparring and getting punched in the head isn't much fun either. As a guy, doing what you do, where is the challenge? Is it hard? Where does the discipline come from?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question too, and I'd say the biggest side of it is obviously whilst like there are definitely still injuries that can occur, but it's more like if I like broke my wrist and I am out of action, like what can I do? I can't play anything, right? Mm-hmm. So then technically I can't do my job, and therefore I'd have to take time off. And with anything, you take time off, you lose some of the progress that you made. But I would say the difficult side of like my job of being like a content creator or a streamer is like the mental side of you're always in like the public eye. I'm posting on social media all the time, like Twitter, Instagram, things like that. And there's always going to be that level of, there's going to be people who say not nice things. And there's constant worry about, like, I'm thinking about numbers all the time. Like, oh, last stream had 700 viewers, but this one only has 400 viewers. Like, what have I done wrong? Why aren't people coming back? And then the next one I'll have 800 and you're like, oh, it's actually just completely random. Brilliant. So, it's the mental side is definitely what makes this such a tough job to handle. And I am very, very aware that I am in a privileged position where I don't receive a massive amount of like online hate or online abuse. And I'm very grateful, and long may it stay that way. But I do experience my friends, and I see people I know experiencing that. So I see it happening and I know it happens. And I can't imagine the mental fortitude you need to know that when you're going to go live, there's going to be people coming in and, just absolutely waffling just nonsense, but they're doing it to try and upset you. There's no other way to go about it. And to have to wake up and know that that's what you're going to deal with every day must be, incredibly, incredibly difficult to overcome.
So people like me, I wouldn't have thought of that. I would never, that wouldn't have crossed my mind. So I watched you do a video yesterday, the video when you were 20, when you were saying about, what we spoke about earlier. And at the end of the video, you did a caveat saying, please don't say mean things on this video. And I genuinely thought, that's a strange thing to say at the end of a video when you're talking about losing your mum. And it makes sense why you've got to say it, because people are just horrible. People just say mean things, I guess, for the sake of being mean.
Yeah, I mean, I guess another thing that, can happen, and it's, it's not super prevalent, but it's prevalent in certain communities online, is like, let's say, you're boxing, you're up against another guy. That guy is going to have fans of people who now just dislike you because you are his opponent, right? So there's that level of it too, where there can be that beef between communities. And I'm sure more of it happens than I see. I mean, despite the fact that my job is, online all the time, like outside of scrolling like my own Twitter feed, I don't really deep dive into much social media wise. I don't go looking through things. I often miss trending topics. And, I finish my stream at 5:00 and I try and tune out a little bit as much as possible to keep some normality to my schedule and my life. So, but, there's definitely that side of things as well. And I think that's probably the most comparable way, is that sometimes if a streamer has beef with another streamer, that streamer's audience now doesn't like the other streamer. And that's the way it goes.
Man, it's great you say that, because I've had it in my career as a boxer. I almost boxed somebody a few years back when I was still competing. And the fight was never even, and we never made the fight. We never boxed in the end. But just to talk about it, all his fans are being mean to me, being mean to my wife, my family, my sisters, to try to get under my skin. I just thought, this is so strange. This is so weird. And I guess the boxing community is quite noisy on social media, but I can imagine doing what you do, like people are even more noisy because they're on their computers, they're on their phones all the time, doing what they do. So it must require an awful lot of mental fortitude, as you said, and a really tough mindset and thick skin. And that's a challenge that's really sad. People go through that. I'm glad you don't, because you seem like a lovely, lovely man, but Yeah, it must be really difficult. But I've really enjoyed it today. We could talk more. We could talk about loads of different things. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we log off? Like, I mean, I want to have 2 million followers on social media. I want you to kind of grow. Where can people find you? Where can they tune in at? What else is going on in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's so fun is, and again, it comes down to, you know, I'm very aware that I am in a situation where I can dabble into like multiple different things, right? I could try bits out. I could be like, oh, maybe I want to release a song, and I could just release a song, and it doesn't affect me negatively to do that because I'm still doing my normal job alongside it. But I'm almost going in reverse, I think, because a lot of people from like mainstream media and like, you know, a more mainstream job role are seeing the benefits of having like a prevalent social media profile. And, you know, you're seeing a lot of musicians and comedians and stuff turn to Twitch to live stream, especially during the pandemic. They were, you know, Twitch's platform grew massively because everyone was like, well, I can just do my craft online and people can still come and watch. And while you're seeing so many people trying to sort of build a more prevalent social profile, I'm trying to actually do like more traditional media. So weirdly, I'm trying to flip it on its head. And I'm like you said earlier, every day I present to my own channel and I'm like, all right, well, maybe I could get some presenting gigs, you know, for something. I fancy myself as a bit of a presenter. I reckon I can waffle.
Mate, it'd be great. I've really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
No, and then that, you know, that's just it. I'm thinking to myself, well, what else can I do? I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll dabble in acting. I want to try a little acting gig. And, you know, so I'm just going to try and I'll do some auditions and see if I can get a little acting gig. And, you know, the answer of like, what do I want to do next? And what do I want to go on with? No matter what I ended up doing, I always want to be able to come back and know that I can stream a couple days a week because I do it because I literally love playing video games. Like I really do love my job. And, you know, there's some things about like what I'm trying to do that just seem absolutely wacky. I mean, who knows what I want to do? Do I want to present a show? Slap me on a reality show. You know, I mean, I don't think I'm too keen on something like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, because I just point blank refuse. But, you know, slap me on I had a mate on Dancing on Ice once. I could do one of them. I could get on one of them. You know, do a little shimmy or something. I could manage. I could manage.
Man, I think you wouldn't manage. I think you'd blow out the water. I think you'd be amazing. I think you'd be really.
We'll come back to this moment when I'm face down on the dance floor on Strictly, or I've got a skate sliding past my head on Dancing on Ice or something. We'll come back to this moment and we'll be like, what did you say? Why did you say that?
With half your ear cut off from a skate, you're playing with the skate. So I had Brian O'Driscoll on recently, and he's one of the greatest rugby players in history to play the game, one of the best centres ever. When he retired from rugby, he was, even though he'd pretty much achieved everything he could have achieved, he was really struggling with his career with his life when he retired. And he got passed a little bit of advice to him, which he told me, and I hold on to this all the time. He said, it doesn't matter what you've achieved in your life, always believe that your best days are yet to come. And I love that because you've done some unbelievable things. We haven't even spoken about it, but in LA, you've had tens of thousands of people chanting your name at the biggest, gaming conference in the world. Yep, unbelievable.
That was it.
Same thing in Amsterdam as well.
Yeah. The LA one was that was the first time I ever came. I came off stage. I just sobbed like a little baby. Like it was the most surreal, bizarre experience. I walked out and there was like thousands of people chanting SeaPeeKay, and I sort of held it in the moment. And I got off stage, and my girlfriend was backstage, like waiting for me. And it was like one of those scenes from a movie. I like ran to her already crying. Like I was like a floppy jello of the man I was when I stepped up there. So, like it's one of those things where that is so, at the end of the day, like I'm just a guy trying to be funny playing video games. And there are people who are so receptive to that they want to show their love in that way. It is so unbelievably humbling. And I'm so grateful for what I get to do on a daily basis that it literally just got a little bit much for me, to be honest.
The tears, were they pride? Was it disbelief? What?
It was probably years of pent up 600 different emotions all bursting out at once. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a bit of an emotional guy. I cried at Monsters Inc. But I mean, when Sully had to scare Boo to go back, I was like, that is so sad.
I haven't seen it. They ruined it. No.
Don't ruin it. It's 19 years old, man.
I'll get around to it. I will get around to it.
That's on you at this point.
I will get around to it.
That's what we're going to do when you get back to London, mate. We're watching Monsters Inc. together.
Yeah. Is there a 2? Is there Monsters Inc? Oh, don't tell me. That's it. Mate, honestly, I think big things are in your future.
I hope so.
You are an unbelievably charismatic man. And I mean, I wish we did this in person. I wish we could have been in London together in the studio doing this. I could have really felt your energy, but I think I've got enough of it from the computer from 5,000 miles away. I think the world's your oyster. Keep killing it in this space. No doubt yourself and with Casey's help at GVO, you're going to make it way more mainstream and become a massive star. I think, honestly, you are the crown jewel of GVO talent, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Before we go, I want to tell you a poem that I saw today. I asked Katie to ask you if there were any. I didn't want to talk to you before. I wanted this to be really fresh and real, as it has been. So I asked Katie to ask you if there's any quotes that you live by or any mantras. I'm all into that quotes and mantra stuff. I like that stuff. And she texts back saying no. I said, oh, okay, brilliant. Okay, so she said something like you always rely on yourself. Like you've always relied on yourself, and you get out what you put in. I did a little bit of Googling and I saw this quote, and I saw it. It's actually a poem, and I thought of you. I'm now going to absolutely bastardize this poem, so please, apologies.
Let's hear this musical talent.
No. In the most monotone voice ever. From Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer, if I upset you, tough. Tough. It says, rely on yourself and be true to who you are. What's unique about you is what will take you far. Don't look at others and say you're okay. You know it, so believe it. Showing your own self the way. And I thought that, and I watched that video of you last night when you were a 20-year-old boy in Doncaster, a bit unsure of himself, a bit unsure of his place in the world. And I watched that last night, and we've spoken today, 10 years apart. You've just been yourself. This whole time, you've just been yourself, organically, authentically you. And you've gone from a lad in your nan's bedroom, or not in your bedroom, in your nan's house, to you now, like living your dream, getting cheered in stages all around the world.
In an even smaller bedroom. Can you believe it?
Yeah, we got 3 world records. That's
exactly.
That's what matters. And like I said at the very beginning, I ultimately, we can strive for things in life. And it took me a long time to figure this out. Too long than I care to really, to say. But we can strive for things in life, be it money, being championship belts, being this, being that, being fame. What really matters is when we come to our dying days, whenever that may be, the things that are said about us and the people that are around our deathbed. And you're hopefully can be decades and decades and decades away from that, and you've got a lot of success still to live. But as I said at the very beginning, above all the success you've achieved, everybody says nice things about you. I read the comments. Everyone says nice things about you. I've seen the video of people cheering your name in LA. People love you. They adore you for you being you and for doing what you do. So please, mate, for the good of the world, just keep being you, keep doing it. And I'm a huge supporter.
Well, thank you very much. It's very nice to, it's nice to tell the story, I think. I think it's an important one that, and I guess it sounds as if that's what this podcast is all about is, overcoming knockbacks and how you can get to, your own end goal in whatever way that is. Keep believing in what you're doing, keep being yourself, and you really can sort of achieve anything to an extent. There's no real sky's the limit, I suppose.
It really is. You don't just go through adversity. The winners in life, they grow through adversity. And mate, your growth has been unbelievable. Thank you so much, Callum, for coming on today. I cannot wait to look forward to see what you do in the coming months and years.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. Absolute legend, mate. Appreciate it.
What a fantastic young man. I'm sure you'll agree. There was so much in there for me. I loved how beautifully he's spoken about his mum and her passing. Just a brave guy. Thank you so much, Callum, for talking and being so honest. Just a really, really brave man. And I wish you nothing but the best in your life. And I'm sure you're going to cross over from the gaming internet world into mainstream, because you have that aura of just charisma. And you're a lovely dude. A couple of takeaways for me was how he said he posted a video every single day for 6 years. Every single day he posted a video for 6 years and barely got any traction. That's over 2,000 videos. And that's what made me think, like, people don't see that. They see the success with boxing. People don't see the fact that I was a boxer for 11 years before the Olympic Games. Like, people think you become an overnight celebrity, an overnight success story, but you never are. It's always so much hard work. And got me thinking about the Chinese, I wrote some notes here, the Chinese, what tree was it? I'm not that big into trees or nature, if I'm being entirely honest. But I got thinking about this, and it's the Chinese bamboo tree, okay? That needs watering and nurturing every single day for 5 years. Every single day for 5 years, you gotta go outside, you gotta water this tree. And there's nothing there. You gotta water it and maintain it and nurture it for 5 whole years. And then when it breaks through the ground, it shoots up 90 foot in 5 weeks. And it's like, if you don't do the 5 years of hard work, you don't get the fruits of your labor. So for Callum, mate, so much, he works so hard. Consistency is everything. He's so positive. He's able to take the positivity from his mum dying, living his life. He's trying to become the guy that she wanted him to be, which I think is so special. He's living for himself, also for his mum as well. And I'm just so incredibly inspired by that. Callum, thank you so much, mate. As I said, I can't wait to see the 4th and the 6th and the 7th world record that you break. But we rock on. Every single week, we get a new dose of inspiration from a new guest. And next week, I've got an extremely intelligent, charismatic, again, articulate young man called Kane Kawasaki. Kane Kawasaki was a teacher, a high school teacher, and during COVID, when everybody else was doing family quizzes and on the house party app, Kane was becoming an internet sensation, a TikTok sensation. He took the brave decision to leave teaching behind, where he was teaching a very antiquated and outdated syllabus, to becoming an educator online. Kane specialises in UK and Black global history. It's an unbelievable conversation, one of my favourite ones I've ever done. I urge you all to listen to it and learn from this great young man, Kane Kawasaki, and hear about him and his own extremely inspiring story. So, remember, in life, when you get knocked down, and it's going to happen, when you get knocked down, you've got one option: always get back up. I'll see you next week.